we can talk about what happens if you add an extra milliliter of your acid after you've reached that equivalence point, which is something that people probably have done in doing these titrations, not meaning to, gone well beyond the equivalence point. So first we can find out the number of moles of the strong acid that we've added extra. So we added 1 mil of the strong acid, and so again it goes to completion. The concentration of the acid is 0.34 molar times our 1 mil. So we've added 3.4 times 10 to the minus 4 extra moles of our acid. And so let's calculate then what the molarity is that we have added that was extra. And even if you don't have a calculator, we've helped you out. Okay, let's just take 10 more seconds. Well, I think this is a first, isn't it? Did I mention it's a good idea to start the problem set early? Yeah. So the trick here was about the volume. So we had 25 mils to begin with. Then we added 18.4 to get to the equivalence point. And then we're 1 mil beyond the equivalence point. And the tricks to these parts of the problems are to remember all the things that have been added to get to the volume. So the problem itself is not very tricky of having just an acid in water, but the one trick is in calculating the molarity, remembering all of the things that were added to get to this point. And so by the end of the problem set, this should be pretty familiar to you, but it's also something that you want to make sure that you check on an exam, that you're not making any volume mistakes. So again, here are the things that you want to remember to add in calculating this. And then if you calculate the pH of that, you get a pH of 2.116. So that's down somewhere in here. We've added 1 more mil. And we're at a pH of 2.1106. And this can be a check as well. If you forgot to add some of your volume, you might get a pH that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that can be a double check. Always ask yourself, when you have a strong base and you're adding acid, before you've added very much, your pH should be basic. At the equivalence point of a strong acid, strong base titration, it'll be 7. And if you continue to add acid, then you should have a pretty low pH. And notice the curve drops off pretty fast. So it should be a dramatic change in pH by adding extra of your acid. So always check your work. OK, so let's stop there. And we're going to do weak acid, weak